Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is UMAIRAH NAJIHAH binti SABAR ABDULLAH. My metric number is 1210532. Today, I will talk about one communication theory which is social learning theory. Let's go. Social learning is learning by observing other people with the goal of adapting one's behavior in social context. People typically don't adopt worldviews that make the most logical sense, but we are influenced to adopt behavior that yields the least amount of criticism in our unique environment. It is human nature to want to be accepted by the others, so we automatically observe how others behave and what the consequences are in order to adapt our behavior. With social learning, we use this technique to adopt the behaviors with which another person has been successful in order to achieve the desired result. While social learning is usually associated with learning specific content, it is not actually a process that we naturally use subconsciously every day of our lives. The term social here refers to the fact that one question and adjusts one's behavior based on observation of other people in social setting to achieve a desired outcome. Motivation, work ethic, and learning techniques are examples of observed behaviors you can imitate to achieve a desired result. Behaviors learned through social environments can have a circular impact and inspire others in the same social settings. That's all for the main idea of social learning theory. According to Bandura, there are 4 processes that influence learning. First, awareness. For us to imitate behavior, we must first notice it. It must therefore be something that stands out from the mass of our surroundings. Only then do we decide to observe the consequences of this behavior more closely. Second, retention. We can imitate a behavior only if we remember it. It is necessary to observe a behavior often and possibly apply it ourselves in order to form a clear memory. This point is particularly important in the social learning theory. Then, reproduction. To imitate a behavior, we must also be able to perform it. We cannot always physically or mentally imitate every behavior, even if we would like to. Our knowledge of our limitations influence whether or not we try to imitate something. Lastly, motivation. The expected reward of imitation must be appealing enough and exceed the cost. The more positive and desirable a consequence, the more likely someone will adopt a new behavior. It should be noted that not all people respond strongly to vicarious reinforcement. Some individuals do not focus on the conscience of others' people and behaviors as much and instead focus on themselves. Such people are less receptive to social learning. Social learning theory is a psychological theory of learning that focuses on the role of social experience in shaping individual behavior. It was developed by psychologist Albert Bandura, and it suggests that people learn new behaviors and attitudes by observing and imitating others. Bandura's theory emphasizes the importance of reinforcement and punishment in shaping behavior, and it suggests that people are more likely to learn new behaviors when they are rewarded for exhibiting those behaviors. Bandura's theory has been influential in the field of psychology and has been applied to a wide range of topics, including aggression, mental health, and education. There are several approaches to social learning theory. Firstly, the approach is cognitive learning, which is emphasizing the role of mental process such as attention, perception, and memory in shaping behavior. Another approach is behavioral learning, which is focused on the role of reinforcement and punishment in shaping behavior. Bandura's theory also incorporates social cognitive learning, which emphasizes the role of social and cognitive factors in shaping behavior. One key aspect of social learning theory is the idea of observational learning, which occurs when individuals learn new behaviors by observing and imitating others. According to Bandura, people are more likely to imitate others who are similar to them or who are perceived as successful or prestigious. Another important aspect of social learning theory is the role of reinforcement and punishment in shaping behavior. According to this theory, behavior that are reinforced, meaning that are followed by desirable outcome, are more likely to be repeated in the future, while behaviors that are punished, meaning they are followed by undesirable outcomes, are less likely to be repeated. Evaluation the social learning theory requires considering both its strengths and limitations. Here are the some of strengths of social learning theory. First, social learning theory has been widely studied and has a strong research base, which adds to its credibility as a theory of learning. Second, social learning theory provides a useful framework for understanding how people learn new behaviors, attitudes, and values through observation, imitation, and direct experience. Third, social learning theory can be used to design educational and training programs that take into account the importance of the observation and imitation in learning. Fourth, it can be used to understand why people engage in certain behaviors and to develop strategies for changing those behaviors. And lastly, social learning theory recognizes that learning is a continuous process that occurs throughout a person's life, and that people can learn from a variety of sources and in a variety of ways. So, here are some of the limitations of social learning theory. First, it does not fully account for all factors that influence learning. Social learning theory emphasizes the role of observation and imitation in learning, but does not fully account for other factors such as genetics, biology, and individual differences. Second, it may not accurately describe all types of learning. Social learning theory is best suited to explain the learning of new behaviors, attitudes, and the values, but may not fully capture other types of learning, such as the acquisition of knowledge or the development of complex skills. Third, social learning theory does not fully explain why some people are more prone to learning through observation and imitation than others. While social learning theory can be useful for understanding and predicting some types of behavior, it is not always accurate and may not fully capture the complexity of human behavior. And last but not least, the social learning theory does not fully address the role of emotions in learning and the behavior, despite the fact that emotion can have a significant influence on both. There are many examples of social learning theory being used in various settings nowadays, such as in education. Teachers can use social learning theory to design lessons and activities that encourage students to observe, imitate, and actively participate in learning new concepts and skills. Second, in parenting, parents can use social learning theory to understand how their own behavior and attitude may influence their children's behavior and to model positive behavior for their children to imitate. Third, in business, companies can use social learning theory to design training programs and create a positive culture that encourages employees to learn from one another and adopt new behaviors and values that align with the company's goal. And lastly, therapy. The therapists can use social learning theory to help people understand how their relationships and social environment that may be influencing their behavior and to develop strategies for making positive change. The advantage of this theory is, first, natural way to learn. The most significant advantage of social learning is that everyone used to it naturally every day, consciously and unconsciously. We do not have to plan it separately or set aside time for it because it happens automatically over time. In the working world, this means that we observe our colleagues and notice what they do and how they do it. When a colleague is particularly praised for performance or receives a bonus, other employees analyze all by themselves what action led to it in order to work towards the same result. Second, higher learning retention. It is scientifically proven that we only remember 10% from formal learning source, while the remaining 90% comes from informal source and social learning. By learning something directly from a person, we are able to remember it better because we remember things like voice, speech, images, memories, or even a joke during learning that we associate with learning content. Third, the collaboration. Learning is not the only thing that is collaborative in this case. Other factors are naturally included as well. Employees help each other more often, seek advice and help, collaborate better, and learn along the way. The best time to learn is when you need the knowledge. Fourth, lastly, capture organizational knowledge. By sharing knowledge within the organization, there is a greater chance of certain pieces of information being saved even after a crucial employees leave the organization. That's all for the advantage of social learning theory. The first disadvantage of this theory is inner conflicts. Since social learning is based on the idea of adapting what is perceived or successful of positive behaviors in others, we are learning to behave more likely someone else. If we use this tactic too often and too intensely, it can result in inner conflict if the new behaviors are contrary to our own views. In the long run, this leads to active internal resistance and prevents any learning process. Second, the disadvantage of this theory is less authenticity. Contrary to what behavioral scientists have feared, social learning does not necessarily affect a person's personality. In most cases, it will take long-term, repeated imitation to adopt a new behavior as one's own or lost one's connection to one's personality. Moreover, people often notice it themselves when something does not feel authentic. Third, loss of innovation. Personal thought process, opinions, and views are often neglected, favoring behavior that promise the greatest success. However, since new and unconventional ideas tend to bring progress and innovation, this learning technique should not be used too much. Lastly, unexpected obstacles. Very few people know their limits, strengths, and weakness really well. It is often not possible to imitate the behavior of another because unknown obstacles can arise. This can result in frustration, which leads to resignation from the company. That's all for disadvantage of social learning theory. In conclusion, social learning theory is a well-established psychological theory that explains how people learn new behaviors, attitudes, and values from observing others. It suggests that people can learn through observation, imitation, and direct experience, and that learning is an ongoing process that occurs throughout a person's life. Social learning theory has many strengths, including its strong research base, its usefulness in understanding and predicting human behavior, and its also ability to be used to design educational and training programs. It also has some limitations, such as its focus on the role of observation and imitation in learning, and its lack of consideration for other factors that may influence learning. Overall, social learning theory is a useful tool for understanding how people learn and can be applied in a variety of settings to improve learning and behavior. That's all from me. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, Social Learning Theory. That's all. Thank you.